Hello, my name is Ayla Kugona, your facilitator for this course, Records Management and Archives Administration, LIS 310. For today's lesson, we are going to briefly learn and discuss the meaning of records management. What are the types of records management? Does it have any benefit to us as information professionals? We also learn the records management processes. I hope you do enjoy the class. Records management. I'm your facilitator, Ayla Kugona Vivian, and today's lesson we are going to discuss the meaning of the term records management. I'm quite sure that most of you have heard the term records or even records management, but do you actually know the meaning of these two words? So for today's lesson, we are going to take a look at the definition of records management. And at the end of this class, we should be able to identify the difference between records life cycle, records maturity level, and the records continuum concept. But before we start off with the class, I would like you to attempt this class activity, which is so were you able to attempt the word records management? Were you able to define it as an information professional? If someone stops you on the way, say, please, what's the meaning of records management? Anyway, if you were not able to do that, that is not a problem. But first, let's start with the definition of records. Before we get to the definition of records management, we ought to know the meaning of records. Every day, as an individual or organization, we produce records. And what do we mean by these records? We use this word often. Records are just the sum total of all documentary materials, regardless of their physical form. It could be in form of books, registers, folder, files. They are created or received. Note this word. Records are created or received and maintained by an organization or any other entity in connection with business transaction or other activities that organization is engaged in. I had said earlier on that daily we produce records in our personal lives, in our offices, in our schools. You as a student, you produce record every day, knowingly and unknowingly. There are 5 types of records. The first one are personal records. These are very important in every organization, especially when there's an incident of fraud or there's a court case. Personal records could be used to track an employee, for instance, in a bank where there are normally problems of frauds. Maybe a bank staff must have hacked into a customer's account and taken some amount of money from the account. So from these records, the banks can actually use those personal records that contains the employee's biodata to track the employee. Also, it can be used to track an individual's employment history. And what do we mean by an individual's employment history? This simply means for a new company that an individual must have applied for, and the new company wants to investigate to find out what kind of person are we about getting ourselves involved with. Does the person have a terrible past? They could use the personal records of that prospective employee to know what kind of individual they are about getting themselves entangled with. And this personal records is also known as employees' records, and is always confidential records. The next type of record that we have is administrative records. These records are used in carrying out enterprise functions and activities. Then we have the physical records, which we can also call financial records. Note these two words. You could see physical, you could see financial. Both means the same thing. So what do we mean by physical or financial records? These records can be used to trace how funds are generated. Maybe in an organization, they want to find out how do they generate their funds. The auditors are there. They will use their financial records to trace how the company or the organization must have generated their funds. Is it through fraud, or is it through another means that they did not note down? You can also use financial records to trace your budget. You find out how your budgets are made. How do you disburse them? It's always important when the auditors are around, because they will use it to audit the company. Then the legal records. These records pertains to petitions, complaints, motions, and other papers that are filed in any case or testimony taken by a court and findings. Then we have the historical records, just as the name implies. These are referred to as archival records. With time, as the lesson goes on, as the class goes on, we'll still get to the archives administration of this course. So the historical records are also referred as archival records. History of past activities of an organization should be kept safely. And why should it be kept safely? It's just for future purposes. In a situation where the company is in a dispute with another company, or with an individual, or with a former employee, you could use the historical records in the court of law, and automatically it turns to a legal records. So these are the 5 types of records that we have. Now, records management. I had asked you earlier on, before the class started, to explain the term records management. I know most of you must have made an attempt, but those that couldn't, we are now going to take a look at the meaning of records management. The term records management simply refers to planning, budgeting, organizing, directing, training, and control involved in the managing the life cycle of records in any medium, in any organization, in any institution. We have the records life cycle. And what do we mean by records life cycle? These are parts of the records management processes. The records, just like human, they have their life cycle. For human, you are from your infancy, you grow to a teenage age. From teenage age, you go to adulthood. From adulthood, you now get to your old age. The same thing applies to records. The lifetime of records includes their current use to their final disposition. The records life cycle model propounds that all records are not stagnant. They are not stationary. They are not standstill. Rather, they have a nucleus, just like any living things. In our definition of records, remember that I said we should know 2 words: created, received, and the third one is maintained. So records in a records life cycle, records are created or received. The next stage is the usage, the utilization. These records are used and filed, after which they are now transferred and stored. You could see the stages. It was created. That was when it was given birth to. Then from the creation, it is being used. Later on, it is being transferred. That's when it now gets to the archives or depending on the way the organization operates, is either disposed or stored. So from transfer, it gets to dispose, which is it goes straight to preservation and conservation section, which is the archives, or it is the records is completely destroyed. So that is what records life cycle is all about. When you think of records life cycle, just think of human being, the human life cycle, from birth till adulthood, till old age, then death. Another records management process is the records management maturity level. And what do we mean by records management maturity level? This maturity level is designed to help institutions, organizations recognize that effective records management practices have the potential to enable them to achieve their aim and objective with compliance to the Freedom of Information Act and other information related legislations. You could see from the diagram we have level 1, level 2, 3, 4 and 5. In level 1 we have the substandard. This level describes an environment where records keeping concerns are either not addressed at all or is not even in existence. While in level 2, in development, this level describes an environment where there is a developing recognition that records keeping affects the organization and that the organization may benefit from a more detailed information governance program. And in level 3, essential, this level describes the essential or minimum requirement that must be addressed to meet the organization's legal and regulatory requirements. In fact, level 3 is characterized by defined policies and procedures and more specific decisions taken to improve records keeping. Then the 4th level is proactive. This level describes an organization that is initiating information governance program improvements throughout its business operation. Information governance issues and considerations are integrated into business decisions on a routine basis. Then the level 5 of the maturity level is the transformational level. This level describes an organization that has integrated information governance into its overall corporate infrastructure and business processes to such an extent that compliance with the program requirement is a routine. The 3rd record management process is the records continuum model. And this model was developed in the 1990s by a man called Ian McLean. The records continuum model presents a structure of active records management that go beyond time and space to capture and manage records for as long as they are required to fulfill legal, social, business and cultural purposes. So, like I said earlier on, we are going to discuss all these terms in brief. The well-detailed explanation, you have to refer to your course material on this course. So far in this lesson, we're able to identify the difference between the records, the meaning of records management, the records management processes, that which are the records life cycle, records maturity level, and the records continuum concept or model. But if you have any more question or you need a clarification on today's topic, on today's lesson, please do send me an email via vilaku@now.edu.ng. I will be there once I receive your mail with your questions or your contribution or suggestion. I promise to attend to it and respond promptly. I am Ailaku Ugonna, your facilitator for this course. For now, is bye bye and take care.